James Hill presents Creator's Corner.
Yeah, I said it and I meant it.
Welcome on another episode of Creator's Corner. I'm your host, James Dale, and with me is the artiste extraordinaire, Andre Rochester. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me, bro. This is wonderful. I like doing this.
Art brings people together. So my daughters dance at 224 Studio at Deja Vu Dance Company. Shout out to Deja Vu. And I seen one of his calling cards, one of his pieces, a pair of sneakers, and I asked the young lady who adorned the sneakers, who did your sneakers? And she said, Mr. Rochester did it. So here we are.
Well, that's dope that the sneakers are what caught your attention and drew you to me, because the sneakers are like only a small part of what I do.
Okay.
And it's not that often that the sneakers make it outside. But I'm glad that tomorrow is representing that day, because here we are, man.
Yeah, that's good, man. Art, like I said, art brings people together. And if I wasn't an art connoisseur, I wouldn't have really mentioned anything or said anything or even complimented Tahara tomorrow on her sneakers, and she was fond of you that much so that she mentioned you by name and said, "Oh, it's an artist that I know." So tell my audience a little bit about yourself so we can have a background on what you do.
So I'm an artist based here in Hartford, Connecticut. I've been active in the arts community here for 18 years. I've been an artist since I was 7 years old. So, I'm not going to tell you my age, but, that's over 30 years of experience being a creative. So I'm not new to this. I'm certainly true to this. This is my thing. This is what I love. It's what I do. It is my passion. I toe the line between working artist and what we're calling an arts administrator. So I run a fellowship for artists, actually at the 224. Mm-hmm. It's called the Artists of Color Accelerate Fellowship. I'm also the curator at UConn Health Center. I'm in charge of a collection of about 2,500 works of art across 11 facilities, and I curate 2 gallery spaces there. So I'm a very busy guy.
That's good, man. That means that there's a lot of people in the community that are interested in becoming artists. They're budding artists themselves. Yeah. And you help mentor them and show them and point them in the right direction.
Yeah, that's my passion, man. Whatever success that I get in my career as a creative, I like to reach back and pull people with me, man. I don't want to be lonely at the top.
Right, that's good. I like that quote.
Folks with me.
I am going to steal that and put it on a t-shirt. I don't want to be alone at the top. A lot of people think the total opposite. They want to, they have that Trump syndrome where they just, gimme, they hoard everything, and then they just push everybody away. And people don't realize that the people that help you get there is going to be people that's going to be there if you ever fall. You know what I mean? So if you ever slip and stumble, you can lean back on other people that can help you. And we in a community, whether it's art, whether it is literature, whether it's in the medical field, it doesn't matter what field of discipline you're in. Once you have a community, nobody will fall because everybody will be each other's crutches, quoting Jay-Z.
Exactly.
You know? So what started you doing art?
So I was a kid who needed to be occupied, and my dad gave me a sketchbook and just kind of let me run with it. That's it in a nutshell. That's what started it. My father was a really creative person in his early life as well. He did sculpture, painting, drawing, and all that. He didn't take it to as far as to become a professional at it, but it was a hobby of his and something that he kept pretty consistent with in my youth. And he set it down for a while. I'm happy to say that he's actually been picking up that sketchbook a little bit more lately. So
okay, because
I
you
like,
see you
I like
doing
to think
your thing,
I got
man.
something to do
No,
with it.
no, you can't think. You know that you got something to do with it. Because I'm sure he had that tear running around down his cheek, and he said, "My boy, he took to it." You know.
Yeah, he lives right next door. He got some of my artwork up in his living room and stuff.
Good.
So
That's good. Brown Papa.
That's what it is, man. And I've been creating ever since. Painting and drawing and all that. I didn't actually take painting seriously until after high school. Okay. Really after I left college. So I didn't want to paint, and I was actually kind of scared of it. And then something just clicked in my mind around 2007. Let me pick up these brushes and see what I can do. And I went from doing abstract stuff to doing portraiture, and I've been painting people ever since. You see these two portraits.
Yeah, I see it. It's going, man.
This one is a commission for a friend of mine. Then this piece right here, this piece made it into the Wadsworth Athenaeum. This was a part of a special exhibit this year. It was up there for about 6 months. The exhibit was called Styling Identities, and that was my first time ever showing work in a museum. So I'm very proud of this piece.
Yeah, we're proud of you too,
It's actually called Wear Your Mask. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to get your information on that. Do you have reprints for that?
I do. I sell prints of all of my work on my website, AndreRochester.com.
Okay.
You can also find like various merchandise. You talked about the shoes, so the merchandise can be found in my online store as well.
Okay. So you mentioned your dad being a creative himself. Have you guys ever collaborated?
So me and my dad have collaborated on photography. Okay. So he's got this photography hobby. During COVID, I got into photography to get myself creative again. I was in like a creative block, dealing with the stress of 2020. And so I got into photography. I picked up the camera, and that was a way to get me out of the house. It was a way for me to kind of have this meditative process, right? And so my dad, knowing that he was into photography, I asked him a couple times, go out and shoot with me and stuff. So we used to do that.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure you're not the only person, because I did it too. I drive buses for the city of Hartford, and during that space was on the front line. I wasn't in the medical field, but we was out there. Didn't have any time off or anything. And I write poetry, and I wrote and published a book. Anthology during COVID.
That's
amazing,
man.
Called Politics is All Political, and it has everything to do with how the world was going at the time, and everybody's angst and everything like that. So a lot of times it's one or two things is going to happen. Pressure, either the bust pipes or it'll make diamonds. And in your case, it made diamonds.
Absolutely.
In my case, it made diamonds, because you got to use stressful situations to push you forward and see what can we learn in that instance. So are you formally trained as an artist, or are you self-taught?
I'm formally trained.
Okay.
So it began with just sketching and drawing in a little sketchbook as a kid, but I took art classes and stuff during high school. Then I had an opportunity to actually learn from professional artists. The first time I ever worked on a mural, I was a high school student. And I had a chance to work with guys who were established in this community already. And then, after getting exposure to artists like that, I'm like, I want to go to school for this. And so I went to UConn, and I started off, believe it or not, as a graphic design major. That did not last long. That ain't last long at all. I want to get my hands dirty. Yeah. I like to feel the medium. Like, I have to actually touch the thing that I'm creating. So to get that hands-on experience and still apply some of the discipline that comes with design, I took up illustration. Okay. And so I did illustration at UConn, and that's where I kind of, honed my skills in rendering images like you see here. then, like I said, I didn't start really painting until after I left UConn. So I started to paint more seriously, and then I didn't stop painting. Like, I still draw and stuff. I can still do that. I'm actually a better drawer than I'm a painter. But I like the challenge of it. And so in that regard, I'm teaching myself a lot as I go. You're always supposed to learn. You have to be a continuous learner, right? If you ain't learning, you ain't living. So in order to keep this life going, I got to keep challenging myself. So formally taught, that's my foundation. But the real learning happens as you continue your art practice, and you just keep developing your craft and keep doing it.
That's good, man. That was one of my things too. I went to school for graphic design. I went to Gibbs College in New York, and just like you said, graphic design it's a relationship between you and the computer. It's like a disconnect between you and the pieces. My favorite class was the sculpture class. I remember I did a piece where I molded gorilla. After George Costanza from Seinfeld.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was so, I really felt connected to that piece because I actually used my fingers and sculpted it. Yeah,
wow.
I had put it in the kiln and heated it up and all that. And I did another piece with Bob Marley. I cut off some mops and I used ice cream popsicle sticks and put them all together. And I had them standing with a stand. I don't even know where that piece is, but to piggyback on what you said, when you are actually involved with the piece, it's a connection between you and the artwork, and it resonates with you as the artiste and with your artist because it's a part of you.
Yeah, there's something about the artist's hand being in the work, having actually physically touched it. For me, it makes it real. It makes it more personal, right? It's that transference of energy, if you will, from the hand to whatever it is that you're manipulating to make the piece, right? And I didn't feel that in graphic design. I actually was still doing graphic design for quite a while. I was doing flyers and stuff for parties and all that throughout my time at UConn, and folks still thought I was a graphic design major because of that. But I was just trying to make some money.
There you go, man. It's all about you got to make money, make the world go round.
And I did it for a little while after I left UConn, but eventually I realized, I need to focus on what I'm passionate about, what I care about the most, and that was painting.
Yeah, that's what Creators Corner is all about. Trying to inspire other people out there who's living a mundane existence and have a passion to do something, whether it's cooking or painting or photography or whatever it is. Go out there and put your hands in the medium and mold it to how you want to do. I like photography as well, and the best aspect of photography is actually developing the film because you touch the pieces, and if you don't do the things the correct way in the right sequence, then you'll mess up the whole process.
I had photography in college because they want you to take all these foundational courses, so you get a taste of everything. I had photography, sculpture, printmaking, all that stuff, and I remember having so much fun in the dark room. And at the time, they weren't even trying to hear nothing about digital photography. They was looking at you like you had three heads.
Yeah, it's a faux pas.
Ain't none of that up in here, right?
Man. So, Love Jones, man.
Yeah, right. So with the film photography, I had fun because of that process, right? Touching the medium. In this case, I'm snapping the photo. I'm waiting to see what the results are from what I shot, hoping I got some good ones in here, and developing the film and dipping the paper and all the chemicals, all that stuff, whatever. And I find that even now with digital photography, I still get a taste of that. It's not dealing with all the chemicals and that processing, but still sitting at the computer and editing and making the image really like my vision. I get that out of that. But I still, like I said, I like to touch the medium. I like to actually manipulate the work with my hands. So nothing beats painting for me.
Okay. I haven't gone into that realm of artistry and painted. I can sketch, but the disconnect for me is the image I have in my mind. It's not the image that comes on paper. So I can draw some stuff, but I would have to hand it off to somebody else to clean it up.
This comes with practice, bro. That's all.
Out of all your paintings, do you have a favorite?
I gotta say this one right now.
Okay.
Wear Your Mask is my favorite.
Okay.
And the reason why this one is my favorite is because remember I talked to you about how photography was a meditative practice and everything. This is a self-portrait based off of images that I took of myself during COVID.
Okay.
And photography helped me get creative again. This is the result. This is the first painting that I did after I finally felt like inspired to paint again. And this piece, unbeknownst to me, and it was going to end up in a museum. So this thing that was the culmination of just building up this energy throughout 2020 and dealing with the pandemic and all of that ended up getting me to a milestone in my career. And it was let's see, when I do this piece. 2021 was when I finished it. So about 3 years later, I end up in a museum with this piece. And the oldest and longest running art museum in the country.
That's good.
Wadsworth Atheneum, right here in downtown Hartford.
Now, Hartford had a lot of history, with art and with everything you can think of, whether it's a war, whether it's an election, whether it's anything. Connecticut has something to do with it.
Yeah, and Hartford has been a part of so much in history. Like, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know about Hartford. Like, for instance, they used to make electric cars in Hartford. Hope Park is named after the guy who made the electric cars in Hartford. You can look that up. And it was way, way before its time. We're talking early 1900s.
They had the streetcars before they paved it over. They used to run the streetcars down the main street.
They didn't pick it up then. So,
they need to do it back again and bring it all over.
Look at what Tesla's doing. Right?
Now, there's nothing new under the sun.
No, some things are just before their time.
Do you still have your first piece that started it all?
I actually do. It's packed up somewhere because I just moved not that long ago. So the piece is packed up in a box somewhere. But yeah, I still got my first ever painting.
What is it called? What was the piece?
It was just like a reproduction of something in a magazine. It wasn't nothing really special, but it was just the first one that I had, right? It's mine. Yeah. And my dad kept it and gave it to me one day. It's like, hey, you remember this? So I definitely hung on to that. I probably made it when I was like, I don't know, I was like 15, 16, something like that.
Okay. I got a piece in college, and a favorite artist of mine that we studied was MC Escher. I watched a film of a house he did. I think it's in Chicago. If it's not in Chicago, it's in the state of Illinois, where he built or designed to build the house that went into the side of a cliff, and the basement was a waterfall, and they used all of the elements that they exploded from the cliff into the building of the structure. And he has a lot of pieces. He has this piece where there's a staircase going down, and when you go down it, you end up on the other side, and every time you go around, it's like a big loop. And I reproduced a piece because he has a piece of a woman's face, and it's like ribbon, and it's spelled out Tiame or Tame, which is like French for love, ti amo, for love, French, whatever the word French is. But when I saw it, I saw my name, James. So I made a J and an A and an M, and I still have that piece too. So that's my favorite piece. So
talking about reproducing artwork, there's a Salvador Dali painting. I believe it's called "Apparition of a Dog in a Fruit Dish" or something like that. It's at Wadsworth. I reproduced that piece in pastel. I put my own portrait in. I did that in high school, and that was one of the pieces that stands out the most to me because it was it's inspired by something that I was able to see in person and like actually interact with, right? So like you had the MC Escher thing. I had Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali is my favorite painter, and Wadsworth Atheneum is actually a very special place for me. It's where I decided I wanted to do this, like as my my profession. It became my dream. There's a lot of artwork in that museum that inspires me, and if I had to choose a second favorite, I would say it was that piece because that's around the time I started to take my art more seriously. It was a assignment in class, but it was one of those things that made me like really push my creativity a bit.
It was a tipping point. It was a turning point.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
definitely.
That's good. It's good. So, what do you like better? Do you like sketching better, or do you like painting?
Painting, hands down, painting.
Okay.
I like the challenge of painting. Every time you have a painting that you have to create, it's like solving a problem.
Okay.
So I'm there trying to get this idea out, right? I'm making this thing on canvas, and I have to figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
No two faces are the same. Even if you're twins, there's gonna be something different.
Mm-hmm.
There's like
only your parents know about that,
right? Even when you look at this, right? This isn't a regular color palette,
no,
right?
It's not.
I got to figure out how to make this look natural like this, right? That's a problem that I have to solve. That's a challenge, and that's where the fun is in painting.
Mm-hmm.
I can still make this look real, even with this non-traditional color palette, and I can still successfully create the art and and do what I set out to do. I'm having a lot of fun with this.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that a lot. It's not a challenge in that it's hard, it's difficult, or whatever. Like, I look forward to pieces like this.
Okay. All right. So, is there a process to it, like outside of on the canvas? Do you sketch it out on a piece of paper and then you see it and say, "Okay, I want to do it this way," and then take it to a bigger slate of paper?
So
and then
I'm terrible with keeping a sketchbook.
Okay.
Like, that's just not. No matter how much I try, I just don't have the discipline to do that. I draw it right on the canvas. What you see here is the sketch.
Okay.
And I'm using references, of course. But this is the combination of about 4 photos.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the references really to make sure I get proportions right and not get the skin tones and shadows and stuff right. This gentleman up here at the top is deceased.
Okay.
So I can't exactly call them up and get up to date photo or whatever. So I'm using multiple photo references of him, The baby only shows up in one of the photos that I'm using, but babies are relatively easy to paint. There's not much detail to the faces, so it's easier. But I draw out a basic sketch, and then I build up from there. So you can see I put some of the shading in just so I understand where the lights and darks are going to fall. Mm-hmm. But I let the piece develop on its own while I'm painting it, and that's the joy of it for me. Okay. It's going to become whatever it's going to become. Even with this, same idea started out with a sketch. I had multiple photo references, and I just built the painting up into whatever I needed it to be.
So this piece wasn't one picture. It was, that was one picture. This was one picture.
This
is
literally four pictures. Oh. This section is based off of one photo, like the composition. Mm-hmm. Because in the photo, he is sitting with his son just like that. Okay. But in order to get the details in his face correct, I needed multiple. Okay. Because there's certain details that you're just not gonna get from one picture. Things blur. It's just certain stuff can be out of focus and things like that. So you got to have multiple references, especially if it's an adult.
Okay. So that is his hand, and that's his hand, and this is his hand.
This is his hand. Mm-hmm. This is what's connecting the two. Uh-huh. So he's got his hand on the baby's shoulder. Both of them are holding the child in some way. And this is a multi-generational piece. So this is the grandfather, the father, and the son. Right. And the story behind this piece is they didn't have any photos of all 3 of them together. And so this is a way of accomplishing that.
Generational piece, man. Yeah, before we started the interview, I mentioned the story of my wife and her mother, our daughter and her grandmother. We have a picture where it is 4 generations in one picture. And they said after I took the photo that was the first time that has ever happened.
Wow, that's dope.
Her mom, my wife's mom, and her grandmother passed. So we have that for reference. So if we would ever choose to commission you to do a picture, we have that picture for reference. It's something similar to this. So with pieces like that you are commissioned to do you keep it for yourself in your catalog to sell the reprints, or you just give it directly to your client?
This is special for the client. Okay. Like, there won't be any prints of this. Think about it like this. Who's going to want a picture of It's a random person, right?
Yeah, this is a picture of a random person, but
it's a picture of me.
Right, but it's a random person.
But the thing is, there's some anonymity in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yes, it's a self-portrait, but you don't see my full face.
No.
There's a certain theme to this piece, and what would sell this piece is the story behind it and what it's supposed to represent. This piece is a symbol. Okay. This represents real people. Mm-hmm. This is a real moment, right? And this is a special moment for these folks in the image. Mm-hmm. So for this type of commission, the finished product will go straight to the client. I'll hold on to a high resolution photograph to put on my website to show what I can do. Reference, yeah. But that's about it. That's about it. Okay. Yeah. All right. I've done commissions though, I did a Harriet Tubman portrait. Okay. Anybody will buy a picture of Harriet Tubman, right? So that type of commission, then I would sell prints of. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a piece of that Harriet Tubman portrait in the art studio in Britain?
No. I don't have anything in the Britain.
I saw a piece with Harriet Tubman. It was like a series. It was 4 pieces of Harriet Tubman. One piece it was made out of yarn. Mm. Yeah, and that artist had another piece with Frederick Douglass, and that piece was made from cotton. Wow. And that it's deep in itself because he was an abolitionist and slavery was based off of picking cotton. So that was mind blowing.
I want to see that.
It was mind blowing. Yeah. So, is there anything for you in the future?
Yes, I'm doing my first ever art fair. Okay. Harlem Fine Art Show is happening in February. So last weekend in February, it'll be my first time ever going to an arts event that's kind of like the upper echelon of artists. This is, I don't know if you're familiar with Art Basel, but this is so Art Basel is the biggest art show in the world. Mm-hmm. They have about 5 or 6 of them across the world throughout the year. Art Basel in Miami, I believe, is the biggest of them. This is where they're selling the $1 million pieces and all that. This is where the wealthy people are really going and spending it. Right?
$1 million pieces. So, I'm putting it out there in the ether. It's $1 million pieces.
So doing something like the Harlem Fine Art Show or Freeze Art Fair or Whitney Biennial and things like that, those are steps towards our Art Basel. Art fairs are where the galleries actually go to showcase the artists that they represent. Mm-hmm. Me being there as an individual is making a very loud statement of how serious I take my work. One, it's expensive to do, but 2, being there and representing myself and betting on me and making that level of investment to be there, that shows other galleries that I'm coming with something serious. Mm-hmm. And that, I'm here to actually be in this art world for real. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of me leveling up. So I'm expecting some good things to come from being in that show. I'm expecting some good networking to happen. There will be a lot of collectors there. I would like to make my money back and then some, right? I want to be profitable. But I also want to come out of there with some connections that will bring me to another level in my arts career. So that way I can level up and I can help other people do it. Now I'm going to have a new experience. Mm-hmm. I can show other people how to make that experience happen for themselves.
So would that art show or gallery, would that be the first show that you did outside of New England, or have you done
stuff outside of New England? I've actually shown it at different events in New York before, but I haven't shown it in a formal art show or an art fair. So the art fairs are the equivalent of it's like going to a conference. It's like an industry conference, right? Mm-hmm. Back in the day they had Jack the Rapper, right? For hip hop, right?
The dude with the grade eye thing.
Yeah. So you had that conference that used to happen down south, right? And that used to be the hip hop conference, right? Mm-hmm. So the art fairs are essentially the art world's version of that. So you have visual artists, you have galleries, you have museums, all getting together, sharing this space, networking with one another, making their contacts, selling their artwork, all that stuff, all under one roof. and you have business taking place, like real serious art business taking place. I would like to do more of that type of stuff. That's the experience that I want to have with my artwork going forward.
Okay, that's cool. And one thing that we want to change is the whole adage, the stigma of there's no successful living artists.
Those plenty of
Right. But a lot of the times,
Yeah.
the time that you have that notoriety is when you pass and gone, and your pieces go for $10 million, $20 million, $100 million, like Picasso.
You got this guy, Kerry James Marshall, who a few years ago he sold one of his pieces for something like $40 million.
Mm-hmm.
The time of the starving artist
is dead and gone.
It should be,
mm-hmm.
But now we have to deal with the mindset of the starving artist. That's the problem. It's mindset. It's not a thing that has to be true. You don't have to starve because you're an artist.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't even have to be the life you live. If you're smart about it, you're going to treat it like it's business.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be an entrepreneur with it. That doesn't mean you have to lose your identity as a creative. You stay true to yourself, because that's how you're going to make your money.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of the starving artist is fantasy.
Mm.
That's not a reality that has to really take place, and we have control over that. And as more artists start to realize that we're in an industry,
mm-hmm.
and it's not just a thing that we do that's expressive and all this, like it's all of the above.
Mm.
But when you talk about it from a business standpoint, you represent an industry,
mm-hmm.
$1 trillion industry,
mm-hmm.
might I add. And just to give you some further statistics, right here in Connecticut, the arts industry generates $12.8 billion. Right? There are
just in one state.
Oh yeah, one state.
Mm-hmm.
Over 50,000 jobs in the state of Connecticut are in the arts. That's from the janitor to your favorite singer, to the composer, the producer, the painter, the sculptor, et cetera, et cetera. We all fall into that industry. So it's very important that you recognize that this is something that is business. That's what it is. It's not a hobby. If you're making money off of it, you are doing business as an artist.
Commerce.
Right. It's commerce. And I'm talking into the camera now on purpose, because I want y'all to realize
there we go. That's why we're here, man.
This is serious.
Educating the public.
And I do take that part very seriously, because I realized some success in my career, and that didn't begin until I started to treat this like it's business. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. This is my dream, but it's also my business. And when we sit down and we talk art and we talk pricing and all that stuff, I'm going to come at you like business, because that's what it is.
So do you have somebody who represents you, or you do the artwork and the business aspect?
I do it all myself right now.
Okay.
I would like to be represented by a gallery, but that has to be the right situation for me. I'm not just going to go with a gallery just to say that I'm represented by one. I'm at a point right now where I've done some things on the arts administration side that gives me a certain amount of clout. I'm coming with something. I've been around for 18 years doing this on my own. I have a pretty extensive resume. So for me to just go with any old gallery and let them have control over my work is not really a smart idea.
Okay.
We'll have to, have a serious conversation about what that contract looks like. And it, of course, it's going to be mutually beneficial, right? Like I said, this is a business situation. But I would love to be represented by a gallery in New York. I would love to be represented by a gallery in like Philly or LA or even internationally. These are things that are a part of the dream for me. But what I will not do is give up the control of my artwork, right?
Yeah,
so
financial control.
Representation is good, but I'm not going to just sign away full representation to a gallery and they're like the only way I can sell my work. They better be making me millions of dollars, and that's going to be the case.
Okay, so you broke down the fact that you have business savvy in the art industry, right? Do you advise budding artists to learn the business aspect of being an artist
100%.
first, or in tandem to being an artist?
So if you're in art school, right? Let's start there, because I did go to art school. If you're in art school, the one thing that you're going to notice is that you're not getting a business education. You need to supplement that. Either it's by reading books or minor in business.
Okay.
If you don't get a business education early, you will struggle.
Okay.
Point blank period. You're going to struggle, because you need to know how to treat your art like it is a business, like it is an entrepreneurial effort. The sooner you do that, the sooner you'll be able to make money from what you're doing. If you are a self-taught artist, chances are you might have a background in a different field, right? You could be an educator. You might be a teacher and an artist. Well, what do you do to boost your art business using that background? Maybe you can teach art classes. Maybe you can teach other people how to teach art classes. Find things that will funnel into your art practice, right? You want to support what you're doing as an artist, but you also want to draw attention to your work. That's how you sell. Getting business knowledge as early as possible is the best decision you can make, whether you're taking a business class or you going on YouTube and looking at videos, which is perfectly fine. I've done it myself. You find a way to learn about being an entrepreneur. You may find videos and content out there about arts and entrepreneurship, which is great, but don't sleep on the other entrepreneurship learning that's out there as well, because at the end of the day, business principles are all going to be the same.
Okay, that's great advice. Great. Is there any words of wisdom outside of all of the tidbits that you've been given to budding artists in my audience thus far?
Work smart.
Okay.
Work smart, because the more strategic you are, the easier it will be in the long run. It will require some hard work in the beginning. That's with anything that you do. You're going to have to work hard in the beginning, but also be strategic about that hard work. Think about where these things are going to get you in terms of your career. And also think about how you can use collaboration to your benefit. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to know everything, but you are going to have to work with other people. And you need to understand the skill sets that you bring to the table beyond just being an artist. You're going to have to use those skill sets to benefit other people, and they're going to use their skill sets to benefit you. You find that happy medium, and you find ways to collaborate. That's how you work smart.
All right. Could you let my audience know, even though in the beginning of the interview you mentioned your website, just drop your website to where they can get reprints of your work?
So my website is AndreRochester.com. That's AndreRochester.com. If you want to look into my creative consulting and coaching, it's RochesterCoaching.com. You can find me on Instagram at Dre B Painting. That's DRE, the letter B, PAINTIN. Or you can find me at Rochester Coaching and Consulting.
Beautiful, Andre. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you interviewing me.
And on that note, my name is James Dale. This is Mr. Andre Rochester. And be the best version of yourself. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah, that was dope, man.
Thanks for tuning